I was there.
Oh, and then when you met the Kishi, you are in UK?
Yeah. Yeah.
How this started? He asked you to write the book, right? Together with him.
No, I suggested it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Why did you feel that was important to write?
It wasn't that I thought it was particularly important, but he would always get me to write things. So he'd say, "Oh, I've just had this. I'd arrived somewhere," and he said, "I've just had this idea. Write it down." And so one day he just said, "Oh, I write an article about that." And I said, I don't want to write any more articles. Nobody reads articles. Why don't I write a book? And he said, he just went, "Okay, let's write a book."
That's nice.
Yeah.
It kind of spontaneously happened.
Exactly. It was spontaneous, and we thought, yeah, let's do that.
And then how long did it take for you to finish it?
That was in when I really started writing it, probably took about 18 months.
Oh, that's pretty quick.
Yeah, it did seem to go quite quickly.
Wow. But so many people say in Japanese people has hard to understand. It's so poetic languages. It's hard to nail down. How did you deal with it? Especially Kishi sensei has kind of a teacher, a strong presence, and they say, "Don't you understand what am I saying?" Is it that type of energy, or how?
No,
how
we had a very good relationship. I understood him, and we understood each other, and so I understood what he talked about. So I think this was just the feeling between us it was possible to understand.
Oh, that's nice. So you can understand the depth of his meaning, his this when he described, you could understand, you could sense what he really wanted to say.
Mostly, yes. Yeah, as long as we were in good connection. There was one evening we had an argument.
Yes. What did you argue about?
Oh, it was I don't know. It was a small thing. He was angry, but and then he went upstairs. He just went off, and we were angry with each other then for about 2 days, and it was so difficult to work. So difficult. So it required this really good feeling between us.
That's nice. So you had a strong respect to him, and you really want to understand, right?
Yeah, I respected him very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose so. I've never. Yes, I suppose I did very much want to understand. So he sometimes said, "Well, you don't have to understand," but I said, "I want to understand." So yes, so it's very important to me that I really understood everything he was saying through feeling, not intellectual. This was not an intellectual exercise. This was a feeling exercise. But I can write feeling. So this was what my job was with Kishi.
I see.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So, and can you tell us about the book?
Yeah.
Did Kishi sensei compliment you?
About the book or about writing?
Oh, you.
Did he compliment me?
Yes.
Sometimes. He didn't compliment people very often.
Yeah. Usually Japanese men, there's the
Japanese man.
Or they say, "Oh."
Yeah. Oh, yes. I was very
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes he was a funny mixture. He was a very, very Japanese man, but also very very soft sometimes.
Oh.
Very, very sweet sometimes. He would sometimes just give me things.
Oh,
So yes, he sometimes compliments, but yeah, he was very nice to me. Actually, he was very.
oh,
He could sometimes be not so nice to people, but I think I was very lucky. He was nice to me.
oh,
Yeah.
it's wonderful. And how did you meet him?
Well, it was about 1990. I actually I can't remember the year. I think it was 97, but it might have been, anyway, it doesn't matter really. I was doing shiatsu. I've been doing shiatsu for some years, and but I was not. It wasn't what it didn't have the feeling that I wanted it to have, that I thought it had when I originally came across shiatsu. So I was thinking I'd do something else now. I'd had enough of shiatsu. It's not for me. But then I kept hearing about this Kishi. Some people told me about this dangerous man, this you mustn't work with Kishi. He's dangerous. He's I don't know, just a little bit. Ooh. And so of course this, no, tell me more. And this made me much more interested. I was really interested in Kishi. And then one of my teachers had said, oh, well, I studied with Kishi, and so that was something. And then a friend of mine who I'd been doing shiatsu exchanges with said, oh, I don't think she'd ever mentioned Kishi before, but she said, oh, Kishi's going to be staying with me. Why don't you have a treatment with him? And I said, yeah, great. So that's how I met him. It felt like chance, but not chance. So there I was suddenly meeting Kishi in this little room in my friend's flat, and he gave me a treatment. And from that moment, I knew that, this is what I was looking for. All those years looking, shiatsu, yeah, there's something here, but now this is it. This is what it was.
Can you tell me more about it? What kind of feeling did you have after Kishi Sensei's session?
Well, it was really not even the session itself. It was him. And he was I was scared, it was a bit scary man. And he had this big presence. It was a little guy. He was about my size, but and I'm not very big. But he had a very big presence, and he was quite scary. And he just lie down. But as soon as he sat down beside me, I just felt it's okay. Everything's okay. And he put his hand on me, and I just, it's all okay. And that's what I wanted. It was extraordinarily ordinary. This feeling of okay. And you are okay, and everything's okay. And I'd been doing for years before, when I was 18, I'd got into some meditation work, and I'd been doing, that's the same time I came across shiatsu. And some experiences I had then that which had changed my life really. And I'd been looking for this feeling again, and Kishi had it, this feeling of ordinary but real, absolutely, completely real, nothing else. And so it was just this, I found this again. And so there was no possibility of anything except working with Kishi after that.
Amazing encounter you had.
Yeah. I mean, of course, his touch was wonderful. I mean, just very, well, I could spend the rest of my life looking for that sort of touch again. I was lucky. Just very there, very present, warm, not complicated or technical, but very certain.
And it stays in your body, right? His touch, you still feel after so many years pass by, but his touch is with you, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes, I can remember this touch, and that's a very good guide. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how do you describe Sei-ki Shiatsu? What is the difference from other Shiatsu?
Well, in some ways, it's not
Yeah,
shiatsu.
things there. It's very special. So I'd like to know more about it. What is so special about
Yeah.
Sei-ki Shiatsu?
Yeah. You know, you'd think that by now I would have an easy answer for that, but it's always I have to think, because it's very present. So for me, and I know there are many different sorts of shiatsu, Seiki isn't shiatsu in an important way. It's in the shiatsu tradition. And you could say that the lineage went with Kishi. And I think, you know, it doesn't matter, but maybe that's true, maybe not. Maybe this is shiatsu, really shiatsu. But for me, what's different about it is that it's not technical. You know, you can be very technical feeling if that's what comes, but it's not based on technique. It's a philosophy. It's a philosophy of life, and it's about what a person is and what truth is. And so it's coming from that place. It's coming from the question, you know, what is the, who is this? What is this? And you can only be open, the practice, the discipline is being open to what is here now. And anything in theory can come out of that. And that has a very particular quality, which is different from diagnosing somebody and then treating them. It is a completely different feeling. It's more like riding a wave, which is completely dynamic and completely in the moment. And of course, you know, whether one can actually do that, you know, is another matter, but that's what I'm trying to do. And so that's one answer, which is maybe more mysterious than otherwise. But we don't, I mean, a lot of shiatsu, Matsunaga said you don't separate treatment and diagnosis, but certainly a lot of Western shiatsu, well, all the Western shiatsu that Kishi came across and I've come across separates treatment and diagnosis. And there's just a very, very different feeling to that from this together. Yeah.
So how do you start when somebody comes to you, and then do you start from asking questions, or you right away you start placing your hands, or how do you begin this dialogue with you and your clients and your clients and you?
It depends on the client, really, but I will always ask some questions because it's I want to know about them, and they've come to me for help, so I want to understand why they've come, and yeah, so it's always civil, it's always polite to ask questions and get a sense of the person. But then really just lie down and I just, what do I see here? What do I feel here? And the more people come for sessions, the less they tend to talk, and the more they just lie down. And they're quite well trained, and don't feel it's so necessary to talk themselves. But yeah, it's important to meet people where they are. And so that usually involves some questions, some discussion. But I pick up their hand. Kishi used to do this and I do this. So normally I will pick up their hand and see what the first point is that presents itself. And it could in theory be anywhere, but it's usually the abdomen. I'll put my focus, but not in this diagnostic way.
Very, very interesting. So how are you going to present your talk through our Global Shiatsu virtual gathering? It's going to be virtual. How do you transmit this energy to people who are watching you on the computer screen? Because you cannot place your hands or you cannot hold their hands, but still there has to be a shiatsu energy in between you and our audience.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Well, I'm not sure I know the answer to that. I do find that when I talk from my feeling, that a lot of people know what I'm talking about. People recognize what I'm talking about, really, from their own experience, very often. So I talk about, really, I'm talking about my experience of Sei-ki from a place of feeling that. I mean, I can talk a little bit about history. I think people, it's nice for people to understand a little bit about history from this side, from Kishi's point of view, from his thinking and my thinking, because he's been gone now for some years, some 9 years nearly. And the world has changed, the world has moved on. But he's, so I think the story has moved on a little as well. And I think the world is a little more open to this way of working, especially Kishi was quite frightening to people. And there was this feeling that nobody else could possibly do what people thought it was very mysterious and only Kishi could do this. But he knew that this wasn't true. He told me once that it would be nice if people understood, but sometimes he thought it would be nice that they don't, because then he's the only person who understands. And that was quite a nice feeling for him. But I think more people can understand. I like to think this now. And the world is a little more ready for it. And without Kishi and his scariness, perhaps there's more possibility that people can feel that they can really start working like this. Then there are people doing more. So I hope that people will be encouraged by what I have to say, that they can, that there's a lot of freedom, there's a lot of discipline, and there's a strong discipline in Sei-ki, but there's also real freedom. I mean, real, not just in the way that we work, but in personal development. Sei-ki's got a lot to offer on a personal level, not just as a professional.
So you're gonna do talk and demonstration, and do we do the movement together? How do you see? How do you want to structure your?
Well, I could do a little demonstration as long as, yeah, I can do that. Maybe that would be a nice thing to do. Yeah, why don't we do that? I'll do a little demonstration and talk a little bit about that. I mean, it's not the most exciting demonstration, but because there's not so much movement, but I think people can feel this anyway. One thing we've learned this year on Zoom is that we can feel things. Doesn't matter where people are geographically. So we can do that. Let's do that. And I can talk and show at the same time.
Wonderful. Okay. And then you said you are studying new approach to Sei-ki Shiatsu. So what's your additional or development or new approach to Sei-ki?
I can't remember saying that, so I'm not sure what I was thinking of at the time. So what could I have been thinking about? What I'm really trying to do is I have another lineage that I'm part of, which I came across the same time as Sei-ki. Well, Shiatsu, actually, not Sei-ki, which is called Clearing. And it looks like talking work in the same way that Sei-ki looks like touch work. But we know it's more than that. And that's given me, because I teach this as well, and I see clients doing this too. And so I have a whole way that I can talk about Sei-ki, which is helping people really to feel more empowered in doing this work and coming to it. So I bring these things together. Now that doesn't change Sei-ki, so I'm not adding to Sei-ki, except I'm making it more accessible. So in a way, that's my innovation, is to be able to talk about it. And that was always my job with Kishi anyway. And I'm trying to, with the Kishi, it was very much about the master. I mean, actually, Kishi didn't especially want it to be like that, but it was. And it still is in some ways. People see, still think of Kishi as the master. And that's fine. But we have to find ways to do this, or we have to find ways to learn this, or it's not going to be around.
Right.
So I'm experimenting with ways to help people learn, really. So I'm setting up a new way of trying to help people do that through a lot of helping people to self-reflect, rather than just feel that they're trying to understand what's going on. I want to help them look at what's going on from their feeling point of view. So this is what Kishi called observational ability, because it's, in the sort of Japanese way, it's just, I'll show, you learn from, you be a good student and sit there and absorb it. And that doesn't work for a lot of Westerners. In fact, most Westerners, I used to go to tea ceremony, and the sensei would sit there. Sometimes he'd sit there and say, I don't understand why some people learn this and some people don't learn this. What is it? And there's this, we thought it's because some of the answer is that some people learn with their bodies, their feeling. And this is necessary for this work. But what about those people who don't automatically learn from feeling? And that's, I think, the majority in modern society. I'm not even going to say the West. I think it's modern society. So how to help those people in particular to feel and to learn from feeling. This is my mission.
Yes, so many people use their brain. They want to understand from the head point of view, and it's so much, not from the heart, not from sensing. So you have a big mission to do, Alice.
It's a very yes. it's a big task.
Yeah. But it's sounds very interesting, and I'm so excited to have you at the Global Shiatsu Virtual Gathering. Can you invite everybody? I
Yes.
cannot wait to hear. It's so interesting.
Well, I hope so. I think so. I'm very, very interested.
Good, very good.
Yeah, so I would love people to come along, and I hope I can interest you and excite you about the possibilities. And I invite you to come and spend a little time with us and see what you feel, and see if this interests you. It's great to be led by your real interest. So I should do my best to be interesting.
Yes. So you have courses coming up, right? You're doing online, you're doing it in person. So can you tell us your program?
Yes, well, I mean, like lots of people, I've had to cancel a lot of in-person workshops. And I started out doing quite a lot of online teaching with Sei-ki last year, but I have to say I've run out of enthusiasm for a lot of this. However, because this year also we've had to cancel things, I was asked by my good friend in Greece, in Panayota, we had to cancel the Athens workshop. So she said, please do something online. And I thought, my heart sank, really honestly. But then I thought, no, let's think about this. How can we do a course which is some teaching on some online workshops, but really feeling and touch? So I've come up with a schedule where people are going to be practicing between online work, and I'm going to have a little tiny workshop in London, and we will be live streaming from that. So that starts in June, and it goes on for 5 months. And so it's for people who really want to, there's a lot more to it than that. I'm sort of setting up ways to reflect on learning and to develop, and book groups, and I've got plans. And I'm confident that the way we've set it up, with enough practice so that people are really getting hands-on work, not just watching a screen, that it's going to give people the basics, because we can't travel the way we used to travel anyway. It's not ethical, I guess, to be getting on planes and going to workshops as much as we used to. So I think this is going to be necessary to do more online teaching anyway. So it's a bit of an experiment, but I'm pretty confident that it will work. That starts in at the end of June.
That's great. Wonderful. Eva, do you have any questions?
Yes. Can you tell us a little about your personal journey with Shiatsu? How it started and what led you to? I mean, you did say some of it, but just if you can sum it up.
Yeah, well, it was when I was 18, actually, back in the 80s. My father, I can thank my father for a lot. He's given me a lot of opportunities in this way. He had a big center that he modeled on the Esalen, but it was in the UK, in the country. And I went there after school when I was 18. I lived there. And I was working there, I was cooking, and we had different groups coming, and 2 groups in particular really were very powerful for me. And one was a group that Pauline Sasaki was teaching. This was for a couple of years. And I knew nothing about anything, really. And she offered the staff, it was just me and my stepmother and my father, I think, treatments. So I had a treatment And it blew a hole in me, if you like. It really affected me profoundly, and I felt so much, and I felt so emotional. And I thought, well, this is something I have to do. And it turns out that she had actually been working quite closely with Kishi just shortly before that. I only found that out quite many years later. But she'd been Kishi's girlfriend for a while, a little bit before that. And so I did, and the other workshops were the meditation workshops I've already talked about. So I came across Shiatsu back when I was 18 and decided that I had to train, that definitely had to do this. So when I was doing my PhD in feminist philosophy, so it was a very different area in some ways, although it was quite about the body in some respects as well. I decided that this was for some reason, the perfect time to also train in Shiatsu. So I trained with Cliff Andrews at Shiatsu College, Cliff and other people, Carola, other people at the Shiatsu College in London. But as I said before, you know, there's that first experience with Pauline and Kiku as well. I could never find that feeling again. It was missing from my experience. And it was only when I met Kishi, because I started training about, it was also Sonia Moroso. You may not have come across Sonia, but she worked closely with your uncle, in fact. I'd done my first workshop with her, so she was some influence. And then she came back to Kishi. It was interesting. Everything went in circles. So yes, it wasn't until I met Kishi that I really rediscovered this feeling, and then really I haven't wanted to work in any other way since then. So that's what I've been doing, and since he died, it's felt important to carry on doing this. Very important.
Well, I'm not a Shiatsu practitioner, and I don't know much. And from perspective of a therapist, so how would you explain what is Sei-ki touch? What is Kishi's work that is so significant?
Mm-hmm. Well, the work is really about meeting people and seeing how it is for them. In a way, it is that simple. It's very simple. How to break down the walls between us, how to make contact. And it's very simple, but really quite difficult to do for most of us. And when, I think we've all had the experience of when we feel seen by someone, really seen, not seen for our dramas, our stories, but seen for who we really are. You know, that's actually what we crave in life. I mean, people look for partners to do this, you know, and it brings enormous relief to, I think, all of us when we feel really understood, we feel got. And that's what this work is about. So this isn't about diagnosing what's wrong with you and trying to put you right. It's about getting you. And when we're seen, we can drop automatically. We drop our dramas, a lot of the stuff, the noise that goes on. We don't have to do that anymore because somebody's seen us. And so this happens to be through touch, through the medium of touch, which is very powerful, very, very fundamental. This sort of mother's touch, kind touch, and touch brings us back into our our lives, if you like, are where we are and who we are right now. So for me, this is I'm trying to think of the word. It's essential, fundamental work, bringing this touch together with this recognition, and people can then change themselves. If we are met and recognized, we can change ourselves. We do. We automatically change ourselves. And so this is medicine, but not in the medical model of sickness and cure. It's soul medicine, if you like, which is a much bigger picture of medicine and health. If it even makes sense to talk like that, I don't know.
Yes, absolutely.
Makes sense.
Yes. And your surrender work, can you talk about this?
Yeah. Well, as part of Sei-ki, we've always done Katsugen. We call it Katsugen from the Seitai movement. In fact, it's originally from Shinto, and it's but it's in every religious tradition. So it's not just Japanese. But we happen to, because of Kishi, we take this language of it from him, or from Seitai, really. And this is really surrendering your mind, body, surrendering that which isn't the essential you, and it's a surrender meditation. Actually, it's a form of meditation, and in fact, you can find it in the Zen tradition even, although it's fairly obscure now. It's not used a great deal, and this is important for your Sei-ki training, because it gives you a taste of flow and taste of another kind of knowing that we have, another kind of wisdom. But wisdom sounds very intellectual, but this is not an intellectual, it's a feeling knowing. And so this practice of surrender connects us with this, which then is in our touch. If we are connected with flow, then we bring that with us. We don't have to think about it, it's just with us. So my friend Rene in Heidelberg and I we've been talking about how do we bring more people into this wonderful work? What is it that really speaks to people? And what we found on workshops is that people love Katsugen, and they get a lot out of it. So we thought, well, why don't we do that then? Why don't we take surrender work, surrender practice, or Katsugen to a wider audience? And because this is great for anybody to do. I mean, there's a bigger story there, but there's a lot I could say about that. But anyway, so our big project, I hope, is to give people something that they can do themselves, rather than going to somebody, a practitioner. It's something you can do for yourself, which is life-changing potentially. So rather than focusing on Sei-ki, which we're aware, well, like with Shiatsu, we'd love the world to recognize how wonderful it is, but we're not sure that's ever going to happen. And it may well be just a few people want to learn to touch and do this, but we know that a great many people could do the Katsugen work, the surrender. And maybe some of those will find their way to Sei-ki. So it's like we've sort of reversed the usual thing where Katsugen is part of Sei-ki, and we're offering the surrender work much more widely, and Sei-ki is part of that. So yeah, we're quite excited about it. We've got an online course for people to do if they're interested. Surrender. So we've called it the Surrender Project. It's a 8-week course, so that's available for people to sign up for. Can
you give us a taste of Katsugen surrender walk on Saturday?
Yeah, yes. I mean, there's a lot to pack in, but I can Yeah, why not? Why not? Let's just do it all in one.
Everybody likes to move together.
Yeah. We can
and
do
who do you invite to the course? 8 weeks of studying. Is it for who is it dedicated to?
Well, we hope that it's sort of like those who are tired of willful meditation might be interested in surrender meditation. So it's really for anybody, but I encourage people who feel, and I think this is anybody who feels tired of using their willpower, of making things happen and being in control and trying to control life. This is a wonderful, absolutely blissful opportunity to surrender their will for 10 minutes, an hour, and allow something else in. When you do this, especially as a practice, often it doesn't come, some people take to it very, very quickly, but for most of us, it takes a little practice. To experience something that's not willful, the opposite of willful, which isn't something we can really talk about even, it is life-changing. It gives you opens doors to something quite radically different from our usual experience. So I offer that to the world. It's not mine to offer, but we're giving a little doorway for people to come into this. It's been around for millennia, I'm sure, and it's in all religious traditions, but this is a little easy way in that we're suggesting or offering.
So would that be to people like me? I mean, I do meditate almost every day, but for someone who's not meditating and does not know what meditation is that also for them?
Yeah, I think there are different schools of thought. I think so. We've had people who've done no meditation, lots of meditation, and it seems really to be, if you're attracted to it, great, you can do it. And it doesn't require anything in order to do it. So yes, it is for anybody. It's very democratic. It's not doing nothing, it's not doing. And that's for anybody. We all do it. Our bodies operate. We cough, we sneeze, we do things automatically anyway. But it's conscious surrender. So yes, I recommend it to anybody who finds that idea interesting.
So 8 weeks. During those 8 weeks, what will I learn?
Well, we can't teach you exactly to surrender. That's the trick that we have. We can't actually teach that to you. It's a bit like Sei-ki, but we can help you set yourself up and we can give you the benefit of our experience. So every week there's a little talk and a schedule for practice. We build you up slowly. And so it's really, we're trying to set you up with a practice that you then have and we're not suggesting necessarily, unless you want to, that you do this every day, but that you have a tool, you have something that you can go to, because it's a surrender meditation. So you shouldn't feel willful about it. You should just perhaps feel a little spontaneous about it. So it's adding something into your life that may not be there at the moment. It's remembering spontaneity. It's remembering how to be a bit more childlike in some ways, how to just hang out in a way, but in a somewhat more structured, conscious way. So I hope that you would come away from it, if nothing else, at the bare minimum, you would be a bit more relaxed, having had some time of just not doing anything. And at its best, and some people have found this in different ways, it's quite transformative in the way that you live your life in a more surrendered way. And again, that's not giving up. It's completely different from giving up, but a more, I can't think of another way to put it, a more surrendered, more in life, more, perhaps more accepting, but I'm not too keen on that word.
Harmonious, maybe? Harmonious?
I would certainly hope that that would come out of it, but sometimes doesn't have a harmonious feel. Sometimes it feels like difficulty and hard work life, but that you're more in it, you're more part of and in your life rather than living an idea of your life. And this surrender it's like an invitation to just let go into life. And so this starts to permeate different areas of your life in a good way. I don't see that as, there's nothing problematic about that.
Sounds wonderful. You are helping people to feel your own inner self or inner emotions. Yeah. So sadness is not good, and happiness is so good, and then people want to have more happiness, right? And then you can share the joy of happiness with others, and then it's multiple, it's much more bigger than happy movement we can create. I feel like that's what you're talking about. Look into your own emotions. Sometimes we suppress our emotions because of our obligations, because of economic situations, because of physical difficulties, or so many obstacles we have. But if you can give a little bit of light of happy joy feeling, and like Kishi gave the hands to you, and you felt it's okay. And then that's the feeling. Once you have that feeling, you can fly, you can go anywhere. It doesn't need to pretend. You can just be who you are, and then you can carry it. That's the feeling I'm sensing after your talk, and I appreciate what you're sharing here. It's an amazing journey.
Yeah, it is amazing. I mean, I would say it's not, yes, I think joy, it's releasing our joy, it's being more joyful in life. And that can also be the pleasure, the joy of poignancy, of sadness, but feeling more. And most of us are not really feeling, we have an idea of feeling, and it's, it's much worse than we think it is. We are much worse off than we think we are.
Sometimes my clients, oh, I didn't know I had a tightness there. I had a pain there.
Yeah. It's kind of shocking, really, how we live in this idea of our lives, not really our lives. So this is really just coming back to ourselves, as you say, coming back to ourselves and being in our lives.
Beautiful.
Yes, and I always wonder about a therapist's greatest experience, memory, that most joyful and memorable case.
So you're asking me what my most memorable case with a client is that?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Gosh, what would I say to that? Yeah. Well, I think there've been some dramatic things sometimes. I remember, but they're not necessarily the most touching. I do remember one client, this is some time ago. She'd just given up smoking. She came for a treatment, and she woke up the next day with just tar in her mouth. That was very interesting. really just all coming out of her body from these years of smoking. So that sort of thing sometimes happens. But for me, it's when somebody gets up and says, oh, I just feel more myself. I feel that I'm myself again. And that they can go away and their lives go better. Their relationships go better, and that and that they forget about the treatment, and that they go and live their lives more easily. And that's often people come back to themselves. And Kishi wanted to call the book Breathing Again. We called the chapter Breathing Again, but because he says this is what people say, I can breathe again.
Yeah,
that's
don't you think
ending, I think.
Alice, don't you think we have such a great profession?
It's wonderful.
Yes. Yeah. Don't you think more people to join us to give a?
I do, but I used to worry about this a lot more than I do now. It's okay. People are doing their own thing, and at least we're there. And when they want us, they can find us.
So we feel the strong mission to increase awareness of Shiatsu, especially now during the pandemic. We realized the power of touch, how important it is, and the lack of touch and connection with other people. And we are having a project, we are creating a project, Kids Shiatsu, because of the pandemic, kids are really, really hit. The isolation is really causing a lot of depression and anxiety and disorders and soul scars that need to be healed. So that's why I'm asking you about to make a profile, what is Shiatsu and Shiatsu effect? Because we are creating global gatherings to empower each other and to bring awareness.
Yeah, well, it's a strange thing, isn't it? Because science knows the power of touch. It's not news in science, but there's a lot of difficulty in something being so simple and so effective. Its very simplicity seems to be a problem for people sometimes. And also I think that we don't have so few of us have experienced really skilled touch that it's hard to transmit this. It's hard to know what you're aiming for. I think that's true of a lot of Shiatsu people too. They haven't experienced really skilled touch. So yes, I think there is a lot we could do. I was chair of the Shiatsu Society here in the UK for some time, and that was also a mission there. And we've got to be confident. And I think for me, it's not trying to fit ourselves into a medical model that's going to achieve this. It's not trying to talk medical language, but it's being able to speak our own language with confidence and being articulate in that. And I think as touch people, I speak as knowing the community, not, there aren't that many of us perhaps, although who have arts, liberal arts degrees who are good at putting these things into words, but that's what we need to be able to put this into our own words. And we haven't done such a good job of that. And to say that, well, there's the medical model, and that's great and that's fine. We need that when we've got broken legs or whatever, but that we have another model here of health, and this is what we do. And not being embarrassed, not being worried about saying that. And so I think we can do that. And that's part of my mission, is to be able to speak clearly.
We need to raise our bars. We cannot hide in the corner. we have a tendency because of one-to-one sessions, and then we are happy, but it shouldn't be that way. We have to, everybody please. Yeah.
Yes. And I think the Surrender project is part of our trying to reach out to a wider audience with something which is feeling based, and see if we can lure some people into this actual touch, and see what happens.
Yes, we have a lot to do.
And that's why we meet every Saturday to empower each other, inspire each other, learn from each other. I mean, I'm I'm doing marketing and social media, and I'm really honored, and I use my talents and gifts to make Shiatsu more accessible, and to educate and increase awareness, because so we need to speak all kinds of languages and we need to put Shiatsu out there on YouTube, on social media, everywhere, and all kinds of case studies, Shiatsu effects, and schools offerings, and as much as we can. Together we can do it.
Good. That sounds fantastic. I'm glad you're there.
Oh, it's my faith. I think it's my karma that was meant to be. So yoga, it came in the 70s to the West, in 60s, I think, right?
Before that was the 18th century. In fact, yes, I think you're looking at way before that. Certainly,
it went viral. It went viral.
But it's actually there's been a lot more cross-cultural stuff going on way before that. Especially by the end of the 19th century, there was a lot going on. But I agree with you. But there was a lot of groundwork done before that.
Yes, and that's what we're doing for Shiatsu now.
Good. Good.
So looking forward to your lecture, and thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And see you on Saturday.
See you Saturday. Yes.
Yes, exciting. Thank you, Alice.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. It's okay? And yeah.